Harigani.
Harigani. Hi, everyone. It is ShaRhonda
And Brian.
and we are the owners of the House Academy, and we do education and training around Black history and anti-racist work. And so we are excited to be working with Reflect Media on this Kwanzaa series and highlighting some of our ancestors that were heroes and sheroes of this movement and embody the essence and words of each day of Kwanzaa.
We are on day 6 already, and it is Kuumba. Kuumba is creativity, and
Kuumba.
creativity comes in different forms. Sometimes people think of it as the creativity we've had when you think artistry. When you talk about music, when you talk about acting, etc. But creativity is not only that, but it's also the creativity we've had with doing what you can with what you have in the situation that you are put in. So that is also what we celebrate. Black people's ability to not only get by, not only to survive, but to thrive in various circumstances.
And the people that we chose, there's so many that we could choose from, but we really wanted to look at some of the artists, particularly for me, Chuck Berry. And the reason why I talk about Chuck Berry, or I choose Chuck Berry to highlight now, is because he really embodies this Black story about how we're so creative, how we're so innovative, how we come up with these things, and then they get co-opted by these racist white institutions, right? And so we see Chuck Berry inventing rock and roll and the dancing and the way he, is moving the guitar, and this was before anyone else, and then finding out that later he doesn't get this credit. Instead it goes to Elvis Presley or the Beatles or whatever. But this was Black creativity. He was a genius, and he was able to create this new form of music, rock and roll and pop from his surroundings, right? Like, again, Chuck Berry was just a person, but he had it in his soul, and he listened to his purpose, and he blessed not only Black people, but America and the world, really, because Black music has changed the world. And even though we don't give credit to Black people, other people don't give credit to Black people for music. It's important that we understand that it's our creativity that has driven American music. It's Black creativity that has driven American music, and it's ours. It was ours, and it was something we should be proud of.
Definitely. When we think about, American music, or when people around the world, talk about what is American music, or what is driving American culture, oftentimes when you distill it, you see it come from this Black base, whether it's Black musicians, whether it's Black comedians, whether it's Black people who are acting, and they everything that kind of gives America this spice and this flavor over the last 100 years. Oftentimes you find that it's originating in our Black community, and very often we refuse to acknowledge that because we're so in a hurry to say, yes, this is American this and American that, and yes, indeed, we are Americans. But if we don't give that citation, that little started in the Black community, that little something in the back, just to let people know that this is where it came from, and our creativity often has been a direct result. How they say that what is it? Like ingenuity and creativity is kind of like a driver that often comes from adversity. We oftentimes make opportunities from our crises, and Black creativity is often kind of an offshoot of, whether it was oppression or discrimination. Black creativity has often been a way to kind of circumvent and get around roadblocks that have been put in our way. And so we celebrate the creative things that we do in our communities, but we also look at that creativity and say, And that's part of what we need to use to uplift our community. So, you know,
Mhm.
if there are laws in our way, we might need to be creative. You know, if people are trying to suppress our vote, we may need to be creative. You know, when we don't have the let's say the government grants that we need to get things done in our community, sometimes we need to be creative with, you know, how we reach our outcomes. And so it's a Black creativity that celebrates our artistry, but it's also a Black creativity that celebrates our ingenuity.
Mhm. And we're so proud of all the contributions that our people have made, um, not just with rock and roll, but jazz, with the blues, with gospel music, with R&B, with hip hop, with um, we did rock and roll,
Right.
all of it. It comes from us.
Yeah,
It comes from
everything that
us.
we think of as American music and something that started here, you know, and they talk about the great ones, you know, and
Mhm,
they talk about, this is all things that came from our
mhm,
community.
mhm,
And so it's very much the case that we have to say, all right, American music, jazz is American music. It came from the Black community. You know, rock and roll is
mhm,
American music. It came from the Black community. Gospel came
mhm,
from the Black community. Blues came from the Black community. Hip hop came from the Black community.
mhm,
And we've shared it with America.
mhm.
But, you know, let's just remember that creativity is an offshoot of us.
And it's a gift that we've gotten from God. And that's the reason why we've never been more than 12%, right, of the
Right. Yeah.
population. And yet we have been, I would say, the major driver of creative forces through of all of American um, music, art, style, because it's something that God granted us as a people and that we should embrace and celebrate our natural creativity. Thank you.
Thank you.